Good evening, welcome to the Face Off Friday night. Peter Kivasu, your host. Hoping it is a nice and interesting Friday for you, wherever you are. And, well, yes, Friday night Face Off. I have two of, only a part of the panel, on the panel, but I'm sure it is full, like I have said before. In that case, then I get the opportunity to fill in the gaps and be the other party.
Be the viewer.
Yes, David Pulkol, welcome David.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
And Charles Romshana.
The Almighty God is great.
Right, viewers, several things happening this week. And in a discussion earlier today, I was asking, which one do I touch? One of them is purely a governance issue. It is the Constitution, it is amendments that are supposed to come or shouldn't come. I have talked to a number of members of parliament, the two of you will just bear me out, and this is what they say. They are expecting to change the electoral laws. They are expecting certain constitutional amendments. They are expecting. But the Electoral Commission has moved on. It has said, if you haven't done your job as parliament, let us move on. They have set their roadmap. They are already into a procurement mode. They know how many basins to procure for ticking, for crossing, and blah, 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 blah. They are going on. And that job is going on. And I asked a member of parliament yesterday, and they told me they are going into effectively a recess. And they told me the election year, which is next year, is really a dead year in legislative business. That is one of the issues. I turned to look at, that is, at that level we are looking at the nation or the country Uganda. Then I turned on the level of readiness and looked at the political parties. David Pulkol belongs to one of them here. Dr. Olaro Tunu, Professor, Ambassador, call him whichever of them you want to call him, and the UPC have decided to call, I think, a national conference or leading up to national elections that will lead them up to the National Delegates Conference and National Conference that should renew their leadership. Mzee Edward Rurangaranga and another team have run to court and said, stop that process. We are talking about readiness. The FDC has put out a roadmap that they indicate should be able to renew leadership within the FDC up to a certain level. My friend Norbert Mao is still looking for funds. He is in the heart and mind to do the same, but he hasn't yet sourced for funds, and he should be leading up to there. The NRM is very much in the same mode. They have rolled out a team. I know one of them is a minister, my friend Rosina Mayanja. They have a committee that has rolled out and gone to the ground to meet the people. Appoint new administrative officers for the NRM at district level and reignite the party. They have a problem, however. They do not know who votes in the NRM because they do not have the register. They do not know who they have within the party ranks, but they are doing their job. And there are some voices that are saying the SG has let them down, he should quit. An attempt at that, I think, was supposed to be made yesterday at the SEC, and very much didn't happen. David and Charles, that is really looking over the terrain from above. An ego's view of the political terrain within the political parties and at the national level. And those two products, the legislative process, including constitutional reforms and electoral reforms, and the internal democracy, or the want of that within the political parties, should deliver a 2016 that is reliable. Charles, as a political watcher and a possible candidate in the 2016 election, do you look at this as a process that will deliver a decent election for the people of this country within decent legal and constitutional framework?
The election timetable, if you're talking about the roadmap,
that is one.
The timing is commanded by the Constitution. for what you would call the timetable, what you would call. Actually, the constitution is very, very clear on when the president should swear in. And that's what governs the entire process. If there are petitions, when they should be disposed of, when elections should be announced, the election results should be declared, and when the voting should be done. Actually, it's even very, very specific up to the point of the hour when that should be done. So in other words, the Electoral Commission cannot wait for the anticipated electoral reforms. It can't wait. And the second thing is that it would be extremely very difficult to change the law and then you have the Electoral Commission follow suit, because it may be practically impossible. In other words, if you are going to carry out
Let
reforms,
me understand that.
if you are going to carry
You're
out,
saying that it may be impossible for us to do the reforms,
Yeah.
and then the Electoral Commission fit within the
yeah, because it's all governed by time, except if you are going to amend the constitution and then extend the time or the term of the president, because everything is governed by the term of the president and the term of parliament. Forget about the chairman of LC5, because that one is a little bit different. But for the term of parliament, it is 5 years. It has time when it lapses, and so is the president, and you must comply with that. So for the Electoral Commission, it must now be ready. Voter register update, and you see the other programs that have come in to do with the national identity card. How do you integrate the management of data by various agencies with the data management system of the Electoral Commission? Now, the second thing is, other than the NRM, you have the issue of the polling stations. Are they going to remain the way they are, or you are going to merge them? Now, if you are going to merge them, the political party should be ready to cover those polling stations, because you must have you need to have agents. It's not a matter that you must have them, but because like DP, I didn't see any agent of DP in Rukonjiri, the entire district, challenge them. I saw some elements for Bet Kamia's group, yes, but DP, you don't see them, you don't see CP, you don't see FDC, yes, is there, but you know there are very many areas where FDC did not have candidates, even at a parliamentary level. So yes, you have a crisis even on the coverage, the national coverage. Now for NRM, it's about President Museveni. Actually, the moment President Museveni quits NRM, that's its end. Because we are talking about resources. So from which pocket? We have had time to interrogate this, whether the money the NRM has is from the members of the NRM. It's not. They arrange to be doing fundraising from well-wishers, but that still remains as a classified matter. So the system is not that transparent for you to see. So you may want even to have a delegates conference. If it's not in favor of a character or two, you may not even have it, because it's extremely very expensive. Even the other time they had problems of facilitating delegates conference. You remember you had issues to do with the mobile money fiasco and those scandals involving mobile money. Now they are even having a crisis of the register. They don't know whom their members are. You've heard about all this, and they are now having the Seninde report. You've heard about the Seninde report, on the basis of which they wanted to dismiss Hora Mamba as Secretary General. It has just been out in the news. So you have all those contradictions. Therefore, it's and who is going to push for these reforms? Because even to have these reforms pass through, you need the NRM caucus sitting in wherever, whether it's Wachito or whatever, to follow through them, internalize them, and then come to amend the necessary laws. They haven't. You have to have the legal and drafting committee. I think that's the committee, and it needs a lot of time. It must do consultations. So even these ones who are pushing for the electoral reforms, the BSG group ETC, they don't tell you which specific articles of the constitution and which specific provisions of the electoral law that they want amended. They're only telling you.
I have been told, Charles, that there are up to, I think, 200 needed reforms within both the electoral law and the constitution.
But they only give you general principles.
And someone was asking, isn't that overhauling actually the constitution
Yeah, but
itself?
yeah.
And then I was asking, okay, this blueprint that is alleged to have been developed, and you and I were at a meeting at which Honorable Daudi Migereko said,
Yeah, that's a code. Yeah,
Yes.
it's the stone.
yes, Honorable Daudi Migereko said they had as government already a blueprint of the constitutional amendments that they wanted. They also had a blueprint of the electoral laws that they wanted to amend, and they were waiting for the go. But I'm thinking of the two. You've looked at the nation. At parliamentary level, we seem totally unready to do anything. I had Jacob Olanya, the Speaker of Parliament, the other day, and was it at a prayer? And, well, I really longed for the old Olanya.
No, for him, he's saying, for himself, you can continue provided I also stay around and drive this
He didn't
Mercedes
say the
Benz.
last bit. He didn't say the last bit that provided he stays around.
And also
But,
driving that Mercedes
in his
Benz.
prayer, in his prayer, he said President Museveni was a godsend. Therefore, it is sinful for you even to wish to compete against a President Museveni. And this fellow is supposed to preside over a parliament that should look over these laws and amend them, and they are not there. Kadaga the other day was crying. If you don't bring them, we won't have time. I talked to MPs, they are all gone. So will that happen actually?
Yeah, because the most important amendment is actually the removal of the age limit, which is going to be moved by this lady from Bunyoro. I remember I even raised it in the meeting at
Kabakuma.
Shaks. Kabakuma Masuko.
I don't know where you get that from.
No, yeah,
Unfortunately,
I-
Kabakumba didn't deny. when
No,
we
she
were with
accepted
her.
because that's a fact.
She did
For her,
accept,
it's
she
not.
just didn't deny.
No, you know, she said she was ready. For her, she's just waiting for the document. Actually, it could be the only amendment you may have in the entire electoral reforms. They will bring it and she will remove that motion. It will be passed and the constitution will be amended to that effect. But the rest, you can't have it because it's not feasible. Even when you look at the mood of the country, it's not ready for it.
David, you've been part of a group that has been going around the country saying you need to change, you need to change. I'm looking at both levels. The political parties, one of them to which you belong.
Yes.
And then I look at the Legislative Assembly of this country. And in both instances, I'm seeing mchanganyiko. Even
Yeah.
the NRM that is supposed, quote unquote, to be mighty, if not because it is, because they hold the state, seem to have lost their feet in the sand.
I think it's better to begin from there. Inside the political parties, the lack of internal democracy. Now, all, it doesn't matter except none, are going through this trouble situation now. Begin from NRM. With all this militarism, with Chanda harassing Mbabasi as his boss, his former boss, because he was the chief escort of the president, was being welcomed with glamour and extravagance and Entebbe. The militarism that is, imagine solving internal party matters. You bring your PDF officers, you harass, you intimidate, before you can call Central Committee, before you can call delegates conference. Now, after you have sufficiently harassed Amama Mbabasi and cowed him down and intimidated the youth and intimidated the chairman of Women's League and so forth, then when you have now alienated more people away from him, then through intimidation and sheer naked force, you then call the Central Committee after prompting people like Naduli to say you are not wanted in my district. Can you imagine? Does a mama need a visa to go to which office, which embassy does he need to go to get a visa to go to?
I hate
Now the
to
point.
say this. I hate to say this, but what goes round
Now
comes
the point I'm saying here is that, is this democracy? So now, can people who don't have internal democracy in their own house be depended and relied upon to deliver democracy they don't have to the rest of the country? Now, after you have intimidated, then now you can call the organs. Then they will endorse Museveni as sole candidate. And then you say that is now duly elected. So when you take a fraud like that one to a national elections, you imagine you want the citizens to endorse a fraud, an outcome which has not been subjected to internal democracy. Like the other time, who is this guy, Okoto Gong, was a Minister of State for Youth. The moment he showed interest, just a mere dream of wanting also to contest against Museveni was dropped. Paka tomorrow.
Well,
then again,
your
Captain,
friend Jacob
listen,
says.
listen,
that it is
For
God sent,
Jacob,
therefore
He's going to be the
if you wish-
speaker.
for
If
Jacob,
you wish
I'll
against
come there.
a God
Now
sent,
Jacob
I'll come
is
there.
going to
you are
speak.
I'll
sinful.
come there. Now, when imagine just somebody insignificant Maguru, Captain Maguru,
Ruinda
retired. Now just wanted to show he wanted to contest for chairman of NRM in 2010. Then he was locked out by, and then Museveni sat somewhere, and then allocated. He becomes the president. Ambassador to be a secretary general. Then Amela Chembado to be a treasurer. Now, when Otafire, Otafire, or Mahogany, and Mukula refused. So the entire NRM went to Nambole just to elect the secretary general. The rest was elite consensus by allocation, sitting in the corner. So in fact, people in Karamoja asked
Well,
me
it worked
recently.
in Russia. It works in China.
Yeah,
It
I
can
hear
work
you.
here.
In Karamoja, they have asked me, Mr. Pulkol, which parliament is the parliament of Uganda? There's parliament in Entebbe, there's parliament in of Uganda, which sometimes you see the flag where Kadaga sits. There's also a parliament in Rwakatura or Changwanzi. So, which one did we elect our MPs to? Which one is taking decisions about these electoral reforms? So because of this proliferation of parliaments, and because decisions are taken, even when they say paraffin tax must be removed, then the parliament sitting in Entebbe reverses. So which parliament is this? So there's a fusion of parliament and the executive. Actually, parliament has been captured by the executive. So let me come to this internal democracy. Now, Maguru went to court because Museveni was fraudulently declared unopposed. So he went to court and he was going to get, because Maguru said, as a citizen of Uganda, the constitution allows me to stand for any job in the country. Allows me, the constitution of the party allows me to contest for any position in the party. And I was locked out. I was denied. So declare the election, the election of NRM null and void.
That's when
so that
for your information, that's when the president was ready to stand as an independent candidate.
So now
They had already
it was
picked
creating
forms.
a crisis. So now Maguru had to be talked out of court. I think they agreed to pay him some money. Apaka tomorrow, he has not been paid. When he had recently, they were sitting in Chankwanzi. He went there thinking he would demand for his money. He was arrested, the quarter guard brought to CMI. Paka tomorrow, you've not had. So is this really democracy you're talking about? Come to UPC, one glorified Olaro Tunu, sliver tongue, who can talk with supersonic speed. But 3 years, no national council has met. The constitution of the party of UPC says a national council should sit once a year. The delegates conference should sit at least 2 times in 5 years. Nothing. These are our Democrats. People have gone to court to ask court to direct Olaro Tunu to obey the constitution and call the organs of the party.
But
in the meantime,
it's very
the
expensive.
party is divided, but he's moving around the country. Where does he get the money to move around? And he doesn't have money
Why
to
don't
call
you
his
make
national
it con-
council. So these are the people who you think can deliver democracy. A hawks, a whole UN bureaucrat, diplomat, ex-post, trained, who cannot run. Now a party is more divided than ever he got it. Into Akena, into Tunu, into Rurangaranga. Now you want to organize
Into Pulkol.
grassroots elections based on what? So this is the tragedy. Now, come down. I don't know whether Subi and the Mao group have joined up. Now, with Nandala Mafabi and Muntu, I don't see any sparks. There's nothing that excites you, that creates a momentum, that the country is about to enter into a real election mood. It's not there. Purple, hot hair. So what am I saying? I think this country,
Yes, out
this
of that
country,
Despondency, because
Now,
I'm hearing
I'm saying-
a despondency,
no.
depth of some
I'm saying
form.
that I think electoral reforms must begin from demanding internal democracy in these parties. And I think the biggest electoral reform we should press for is Museveni, who has been in power since '86,
Well,
who has created the institution of government in his own image. The character of the state has taken the character of Museveni. The state now can tell lies routinely, without shame, no apology, nothing. With a straight face. In the olden day, in the Museveni of early days, the saints of early days, they could say chairman has napanga something. These days, no money. But you're seeing money going to State House and State House budget increasing all the time. So a person like that one who has had his go, and yet he still wants to succeed himself, come to 16, he's competing with his own image.
No,
he doesn't
he
want to
has been-
compete with a mama.
He has been asked.
The prayer
It
came
doesn't-
from the Honorable Anita.
I
They
hear
knelt
you.
down and
All
cried
these,
to
all
Kabila.
these are,
Why
all
don't-
these are
why don't-
orchestrated.
Why don't we look at it more critically?
So now, after you have intimidated everybody, then soon you will hear National Executive Committee, Central Executive Committee of NRM sitting in State House in again using taxpayers' budget, not even renting a hotel to run their party affairs, not spending their own money. Again, sitting and served with taxpayers' money, using waiters paid by the state, okay, fuel by the state, sitting there to run their party unanimously, okay, in State House, LC1, where the president sleeps, okay. Now, then tomorrow they will bring NEC. After NEC, they will bring delegates conference.
David, let me ask you.
Now, I think
David,
this country
David,
will
hold.
need
Hold.
peace monitors before you get election monitors.
David.
So is there peace?
David,
From what I'm hearing you say, this is what I'm hearing. The NRM is rotten.
it is dead.
It is full of all manner
Of
of...
machinations and abuse. That doesn't absolve the rest of you.
I know.
Why? I mean,
Is it because of the NRM that the UPC
isn't organizing?
No.
Is it because of the NRM that the FDC
is barely a shadow of what they
It
were
is
yesterday?
self-interests. Self-interests.
therefore,
And the leaders.
Therefore,
Therefore, the country needs a real Lancaster too, if you like, a national conference, so that we agree on a consensus on how we move forward. Because now, if Museveni is kindly by force, getting himself solo candidate, kindly by force, okay, then, and then Olanya is saying, is God sent? Nadul is saying, then Moses Ali is saying, this one was a snake, we were just smoking rubber to get the snake out of the house. Then one, even my brother Mike Mukula can say the kind of things he's saying now. So that point, I'm saying that, don't you think we need to come to a drawing board? And therefore,
what would you do at this drawing board?
at this drawing board, I think, because now NRM is coming with 90 proposals to overhaul the constitution. In fact, in 2005, after Sempembwa had closed, okay, then the cabinet started meeting. Sempembwa came with only 23 recommendations. Only 11 were accepted with amendments. The rest were rejected by government. And government came with 100 proposals. Actually, they were going to overhaul 60% of the constitution, including to say hydrocarbons, oil should be excluded from the list of minerals. It is there. I have a copy. Including that the president should have power to make laws on land, on health and environment. Can you
I'll pause
imagine?
you there. I'll pause you there. Viewers, while this gets interesting, it sounds like a lamentation.
No, I'm
Charles,
coming to the recommendation.
Charles, there are a set of proposed legislative and constitutional
amendments,
are they of any value to the process of 2016?
or the process leading up to 2016? If they are not, then what?
You see, we need to examine ourselves, and we begin from our own table, because all of us have played a role in strangulating, is that the correct word? Democracy.
I'm not sure I have.
I've
Played a role in ensuring that all of you have a platform
To cry out
democratic ideas. Carry on.
and you know, of course, you know, dictators in Africa are very dangerous. I shouldn't cheat at you and be in trouble. But let me begin with my brother here,
David.
and myself, because we're in the Constituent Assembly, and we passed the proviso, I think 156, that restricted the political party activity and actually criminalized it.
Kanye amendment.
Yes, it was
169 or something.
it was illegal to open up a party branch. It was illegal.
Beyond, yes,
It
carry
was
on.
illegal to have a delegates conference. It was illegal, criminal those were crimes. And for 20 years, you had political party activity in abeyance. So you have an entire generation finished. So by the time you open them up, they are too weak. And that's why political space has been occupied by the graduates of Ruwero. Those who came from Ruwero, who came from
Bushmen
the bush,
and
yes.
the bush
Now,
politicians.
immediately thereafter,
Ndugu Msheka said that that is
In-
actually wrong to call them bush.
Well, these are they are an outcome of the bush
Jesus
war.
Christ.
Sorry.
So immediately after, you had the Procol regime. And what was the slogan? No change. Okay, from him himself.
Co-opted,
Yeah, from him himself. Now
You
I
were
was
part of that machine.
Now
of
I
no
was
change.
there when Amam Baba struggled to amend this because it was accepted and it was popular. No change. Then Amam Baba amended it to say, why change? So Procol would say, no change.
In 96.
Amam Baba would say, why change? And then we would reply, no cause. No cause, yes.
And that's
now,
we thought it was 2 terms.
whichever. Now we are at that stage.
Why change?
Do we need any change?
We need a real change.
Do you need change
Beginning
really?
from Museveni
Because you
himself.
see, the real person among Babas who says why change, the moment he contemplates, because now they are asking him that, hey, you are thinking about why we should change. It's no longer the other one that he was responding to Procol. No, he has now coined his own.
You see, I'll hold you there. There is a translation of a prayer from the Catholic Church, one of that penitent's prayer. In my language, it comes off very interesting sometimes. You have sinned in mukuroza, mukukola, nembutako. Even in thought, you have already sinned.
Yes.
So,
and in failing to do what's right.
So in this case, you are saying that the contemplation is a sin.
Of to stand against Museveni.
You see, it goes beyond to stand against President Museveni because there are other things that are taking place. In my view, is NRM different from the NRM that came from Ruwero? It's not. What came from Ruwero is what is ruling, and because they didn't come here through democracy, they captured state power.
That's why I was saying in Entebbe that they go this thing through blood.
No, they captured
Not that
it.
they were elected in
It's-
2011.
you see, look at them as a guerrilla organization. The only difference
they
from
have transformed.
No,
Just
they haven't.
Almost 30
You
years.
see-
of
you see,
existence.
Didn't you hear
see,
the president
a
in
minute,
Entebbe?
boss,
and they've
boss.
really renewed their
know-
mandate, washed themselves with jig.
There are jobs, because you see, the purpose of this NRM constitution was to give them legitimacy. The purpose of our 1995 constitution was to legitimize the takeover, the legal notice number 1, 1986. Now, but the problem is that there are jobs that are ring-fenced. The way they were attempting to ring-fence some jobs for Banyoro and Bunyoro, there are some jobs that are ring-fenced. One
the
is
president.
the president and chairman. That's ring-fenced. Actually, even the constitution-making process, could not restrict his powers over the management of the military. That's why you can have the special forces command and change it. And then the other that is ring-fenced is the vice chairman.
Really?
Yes.
You've been electing vice chairman. Daga is a deputy
I'm talking
chairman.
about vice chairman Alhaji Moses Chigongo. That one is ring-fenced.
So
Now,
these,
then
are
there
live,
was
these are live presidents.
now you can have your own interpretations. No change. Why change? Now, then the third one that there was an attempt to ring fence is the Secretary General, because it became the third most important position in the NRM. All these are repressing the high command where you should have consensus. In other words, you are having the collapse of the Ruwero consensus, and you are now building a different consensus
I'll hold
based
you
on
there.
families, based on individuals,
I'll hold you
and
Let me hold you and take a break.
Viewers will take a break. When we return from the break, it is those questions about, so what about this country? Because when I hear the despondents at this table, then you ask yourself, do you need Yeltsin? Because Yeltsin had a coup against a government in which he served, stood on a tanker and said this was a time to move over and change. Before Yeltsin, you had, what's the fellow, Gorbachev.
Come from here. Yes,
Gorbachev
come back
practically
here. Museveni has organized a coup on
kicked
himself
out
now.
the USSR himself. He had a coup against himself
And
dismantled the USSR. Are we at a level that we are
Yes.
dismantling
The-
whatever consensus of some of this country
Yes.
don't go away.